Part 41. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 419. The two of them rarely come to the neighboring town, and they have obviously gone on so many dates. Since they started dating, how many times have they gone on dates? Lulu recalled it, but they only left vague impressions, but could not remember the specific number of times. If you count from the beginning, you should be able to count them. But this is a rare date time, and it would be too shameful to use the present time to count the memories that have become the past. Lulu, do you want to hold hands? The streets are filled with couple stalls or people traveling with their families, making it a lively scene everywhere. Although the two of them are no longer at the age where they would get separated without holding hands in a crowded place, they would still do this in such a situation. Ika took advantage of the situation and took Lulu's hand, but instead it made Lulu puff up her cheeks slightly. Ah, I was beaten first by my brother. Didn't I agree that I would take the lead today? Once you get used to it, haha. Do you need me to let go and do it again now? Bad guy. Although the expression on Lulu's face was a little awkward, she still didn't let go of Ika's hand. The surrounding area was not crowded. But after living in the silent forest for too long, Lulu somewhat forgot about this noisy feeling. They came to a coffee shop. The simple yet elegant appearance is particularly unique in this small town. This is probably the interesting place that Lulu mentioned before setting off. Here we are, right here. A coffee shop. Sure enough, this is where Lulu wants to come to the neighboring town for a date today. The two sat down on the side of the store near the floor-to-ceiling windows. After placing orders respectively, Lulu leaned back on his chair and looked out the window. Classical music plays leisurely, and the inside and outside of the shop seem like two different worlds. The world outside the store seen through the glass window is real, and the world of the two people inside the glass window is also real. There is no contradiction between the two. Ika's figure can be reflected in the corner of the eye and the glass of the floor-to-ceiling windows. The sound of his gently shaking the spoon and the collision of the coffee cup was clear and sweet, and just sitting here gave me a sense of security with him. Lulu held the warm coffee cup in both hands and continued to look at the world outside the floor-to-ceiling window. I just don't know whether she is admiring the fresh street scene or the figure reflected in the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was like a dream-like time to be able to enjoy the ordinary scenery and enjoy a date with my brother in a normal way. What is this extremely cherished feeling born in my heart? It was obviously just something that I had experienced frequently before, but there was a slight bitterness that was hard-earned and I didn't want to let go. It's like holding the coffee without sugar in your mouth, with sweetness floating outside and bitterness sinking inside. What was it like before? Lulu, what are you looking at? You're all starting to feel dazed. Ika's voice stopped her from thinking anymore and brought her increasingly blurred consciousness back to reality. Turning his head from the floor-to-ceiling window, Ika was holding his cheek and looking at him meaningfully. Feeling embarrassed for a moment, she hurriedly picked up the coffee cup and took a sip, trying to cover her current expression with the cup. Then she realized that this was just a cover-up, and she placed the coffee cup she was holding in both hands on the tray. It just suddenly feels like, life now is like a dream. Really? I feel the same way. Brother too. Because I am so happy that I can't believe it. Lulu will be my wife. This reality is too luxurious for me. Isn't it natural? You can spend every day like this with the person you like, and so do I. Ika's words made Lulu's cheeks become hot when he heard her. He put down the coffee cup and grabbed the corners of his clothes tightly under the table. All the problems that had bothered her were now forgotten. Lulu just wanted to cherish every minute of dating the person she liked. After coming out of the coffee shop, Lulu took the initiative to hold Ika's hand. I want to reiterate that the leadership today is in my hands. I understand, my princess. Ika responded patiently to Lulu, and she walked around the street holding her hand. Sometimes it's a dessert shop, sometimes it's a clothing store, sometimes it's an open park. They visited every corner of this town. For Lolo, this is an irreplaceable good time. The sky gradually darkened, and the afterglow of the setting sun filled the town. The heat of the day disappeared like an ebbing tide, and it seemed that only Ika and Lugolugo were left in the silent town. The good times have come to an end. Brother, there is another place I want to go. Just tell me wherever you want to go. All my time belongs to you. As long as it's your wish, I will help you realize it even if it's something I can't do. How can the impossible be achieved? Lugolugo showed a faint smile. It was a dreamy smile that seemed likely to disappear in the bubble at any time. I want to go, where you are. The figures of the two people were reflected in the closed shop windows on the roadside. Ika looked at Lugolugo quietly, and Lugolugo raised his head slightly and looked up at Ika. The girl reflected in the glass display window is no longer the cute outfit that Ika put on for her during the date, but the ink-dyed wedding dress that she personally chose. Every day since I was with my brother, I was happy. That was the happiness I had never experienced before. With the huge Ferris wheel as the background, the afterglow gradually dimmed. Ika listened quietly to Lugolugo. No matter how painful and uncomfortable it is, as long as I think of my brother by my side, I feel that I can do anything. For me, who is weak, your presence is the most effective analgesic. With you the place we are in is the Garden of Eden, but it's not enough to just go on like this, right? Lugolugo raised his head. Although she had the usual smile on her lips, her eyes were filled with tears. If this time is really a dream, then I have been deceiving my brother. The moment he opened his mouth to reveal the truth, Lugolugo's tears couldn't stop flowing down his cheeks. Pretend to be an obedient sister, pretend to be a lover worthy of my brother, pretend to be who I am, to realize this wish, to paralyze myself and escape from reality. But Lugolugo did not move away from his gaze on Ika, licking his lips and telling him his wishes while choking. Do I have the right to stay where you are? He promised that as long as it was his wish, even if it was something he couldn't do, he would help him realize it. Only he can realize his wishes, even things he can't do will help him realize them. Nothing can replace the significance of his existence to him. Maybe it's really just a dream. Ika, who had been listening to Lugolugo's confession, finally spoke. There was no regret or open-mindedness, he just murmured in a plain voice. I have said before that this kind of happiness is too luxurious for me. Even if this is just a dream, I am willing to give up everything in exchange for such a dream. It is best not to wake up for the rest of my life. Ika reached out and lifted Lugolugo's face. The expression on his face was similar to that of Lugolugo, but he endured it more thoroughly. But Lugolugo is different from me, right? You are far stronger than me. So, even though I already knew that this period of time was just a dream, I didn't dare to say it to break it, but you said it for me. At this moment, Lugolugo finally couldn't help but let go of her cry. Regardless of whether this was a dream or not, nothing could make her feel more at ease than shedding tears in front of him. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 420. Harmony section. Is this the end? On the bed behind him, Lugolugo pulled the sheet that was about to slide to the floor and wrapped it around her body. There is no need to answer this question. This dream has already come to an end when it realizes the truth. Orchid Heart created countless happy dreams for her, and these countless happy dreams were the only Garden of Eden where Lugolugo could find relief. Although she subconsciously knew that this was just a hypocritical world, she was not strong enough to let go of the short-term happiness, so this lie continued for such a long time. Dreams are continuous. Every night, she could spend a happy day with Ika here, from confession, becoming lovers, several dates, to tonight. The time experienced in dreams is real, and the time experienced outside dreams is also real. There is no contradiction between the two. At least that's the case for Aika and Lolo. After waking up from the dream, she was still alone, and even the time spent in that dream could not remain in her memory. Probably, even the pain, peace of mind and sense of fulfillment imprinted in the body at this moment will not leave any memories. Turning his back to Aika, Lolo lowered his head and was already crying. She wrapped the sheet tightly around her shoulders, as if she wanted to keep all the last remaining warmth in her body and mind. Even after hearing Lolo's suppressed sobs, Aika still just stood in front of the window and did not turn around to comfort her. If you have already made such an irresponsible move, then just stick to it until the end. He is such an irresponsible, bad brother. Lolo, let's end this dream. I think the real me will give the same answer. Although he and I are two completely different people now, his existence even makes me feel jealous. But Aika never looked at Lolo, but firmly continued to say what he wanted Lolo to know. There is only one thing I can promise you. I will always be your brother. Your joy, sorrow, and pain, all feelings belong to me. Not just all feelings, everything about you is mine, it belongs to me. So even if you leave my side now, I will definitely snatch you back. At that time, all the dominance will be in my hands. There was no trace of hypocrisy in Aika's words. Sonorous, powerful, and striking. Just a simple sentence became a stronger pillar in Lolo's heart than analgesics and the Garden of Eden. She wiped away the tears on her face, wrapped herself in a sheet and walked out of bed. You must abide by your agreement. He finished this sentence word for word with a voice that was close to crying. The established answer has been engraved in the hearts of the two of them, and the last words Lolo left for Aika became the end of the dream. Brother Aika. Someone pushed himself awake with careful force. Aika opened her eyes and saw Way 11 looking at her with worried eyes. The feeling of the seat shaking reminded Aika of where he was. It was an airship heading to the front-line battlefield of the Kingdom of Tiburai. Had a dream. The impression of the dream left in his mind was so clear that Aika did not forget it after waking up. Everything in the dream is so real. Lolo's voice, Lolo's smell, Lolo's body. Whether that dream belongs to me or to Lolo, the line has been blurred. The oath made in the dream is the signpost that Aika has been fighting for till now. He stroked his chest gently, his violently beating heart still not calming down. I wonder if this dream is caused by the magical path connecting the two of them. Aika has never felt everything about Lolo so clearly as this time. Perhaps it is the aftermath of meeting Lolo in the gods' territory, or perhaps Lolo is somewhere nearby and invisible. Brother Aika, I have a nightmare, it seems very uncomfortable. Way 11 held Aika's hand with her warm little hand, and the soft touch gradually calmed Aika's restless heart. In order to reassure Way 11, he sat up from Way 11's arms and touched her little head. It's not a nightmare, it's a dream so happy that I thought it was a dream. A dream that you are so happy that you think it is a dream. Seeing the cute puzzled look on Way 11's face, Aika just smiled softly. Then he sorted out the situation in his mind. After all, the current severe situation does not allow him to continue to reminisce about the happiness in his dreams. Lolo has stepped out of the illusory happiness, so if he wants to catch up with her, Aika can't continue to indulge in that kind of happiness alone. He came here just to fulfill the oath he made to Lolo in his dream, and his future has never wavered. Now, except for Charlotte and Anja, who are inconvenient to enter the site of the BZ Empire, who continue to stay in the territory of the gods to investigate the remnants of the mimic magic equipment smuggling group, the others all came to Tiburai on the Yutrashal kingdom. The Holy See informed everyone that the mimicry magic equipment had flowed into the front-line battlefields of the kingdom of Tiburai. The kingdom's army, which was showing a disadvantage in terms of combat power, introduced this equipment with unknown dangers. In addition, Ica analyzed that the mimic magic costume is still used as a prop to collect data such as heart, and it is also a medium for the Nemesis Association to eliminate magic from the entire continent. These facts make everyone realize that even if the mimic magic costume smuggling group destroyed the territory of the gods, the incident is far from over. The Holy See made a request to the Protoss for an alliance, and they also sent 2 Blue Knights, Liuyan and Orpheal, to the kingdom of Tiberi to assist Ica and the others in their investigation. Ica's actions may have been known to the Bizi Empire since they entered the Tiberi kingdom. They invested such a large-scale magic machine on the battlefield, probably just to print out Ica and his group who have real magic equipment. Due to time constraints and lack of manpower, Ling finally accompanied Lan Ming to stay in the capital of the Tiberi kingdom, while Ica took Wei 11 and Tong to the front-line battlefield to collect intelligence. When the Iron Demon was raging on the front line and the kingdom's army was helpless, they could only take over the battlefield. We can only send 2 people here. This height is already the limit for not being discovered by that thing. The kingdom pilot driving the airship told Ica and Wei 11 who were sitting in the standby seats at the back. Thank you for your hard work. Wei 11, let's get ready to jump. Okay, I'm ready too. The hatch on the rear half of the airship slowly opened with a low rumble. The deafening explosions and raging winds from the front-line battlefield rushed into the cabin at the same time, and the fierce and strong winds rolled in the smoke from the battlefield. Ica stretched her muscles and made sure that there were no belongings left on the airship. Said to be personal belongings, in fact there are only some emergency tools and headsets that are easy to carry. Wei 11, how is the status of the headset? Yes, listen, hear clearly. That's no problem. The airship suddenly sounded a harsh beep, and the green indicator light in the cabin simultaneously changed to dazzling red. We have been discovered by that thing. I wish you 2 a successful start. Take care of each other and thank you for getting us here. Wei 11 obediently let Ica pick her up, and Ica took a big step toward the open hatch. Hitomi, let's go. Declaring his intention to go to war, Ica jumped out of the cabin and soared towards the war-torn front-line battlefield. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 421. The front-line battlefield at this time was more like a huge crater created after being hit by some irresistible force. The cities, parks, buildings, and suspension bridges that once maintained their classical style have all now turned into featureless ruins. Beyond the ruins was endless emptiness, with several ravines as if the earth had been hollowed out. In comparison, the characteristics of the enemy Ica was looking for were too obvious, and he easily found the Iron Demon in the center of the smoke-filled battlefield. The surrounding formations continued to emit magical light, accompanied by the sound of thermal weapons exploding, all centered on the Steel Demon. The magician troops of the Tiberi kingdom even have advanced magic that can easily change the terrain. That may be the power of the mimicry magic equipment. But even under such a fierce offensive, the Iron Demon was still intact. It was armor supported by 8 mechanical legs, and the spherical armor was densely covered with radiation muzzles. If those radiation cannons opened their scarlet eyeballs, each attack could easily change the terrain in the center of the battlefield. The several gullies in the abandoned city that look like the ground has been hollowed out must be the product of multiple rounds of attacks by the Iron Demon. We found the magic machine. Wei 11, let's get ready to go down. At the same time, the battle between the magic machinery and the kingdom's magician troops below has ended. It wasn't because the airborne Ica and Wei 11 attracted the attention of the magic machine, it was probably just that the kingdom's magician troops were completely wiped out by the opponent. Ica had no time to pay homage to those lost lives. He came here to destroy the magic machine until not even a single part was left. The magic machine, which was like a ground fortress, seemed not to have detected the airborne Ica and Way 11, so they were able to slowly land on the roof of a sloping building slightly farther away. It looks different from what I've seen before. It should be improved in terms of structure and performance. Ica has fought this type of magic machine twice. The first time it was because of it that Lugo had his memory sealed by Orchid Heart, and the second time was to prevent him from rescuing Lan Ming, who was imprisoned in Rosenberg Underground. The types that were fought in those two battles can only be called dangerous weapons of war, but they have not yet developed to the scale of destructive weapons they are today. Even in the BZ Empire, where magic technology is developing rapidly, it is not easy to create such a magic machine. In order to lure out Ica and his party, the military of the BZ Empire indeed spent a lot of money. But regardless of whether the BZ Empire's army is prepared to take this opportunity to catch them all, Ica's mission remains unchanged. As long as Way 11 and Tong are by his side, he is not afraid of any enemy. Ica observed the magic machine for a while. It seems that as long as there is no target activity within the field of vision or there is no attack, it will only attack according to the established pattern. Now its mission should be to eliminate as much as possible the resisting kingdom troops on this frontline battlefield. Ica didn't take action right away. Because in addition to the aura of disaster emitted by the Iron Demon, there were also fluctuations in magic equipment that made him even more disgusted. The smoke dissipated, and the tall man in a white windbreaker began to approach at an unknown moment and was only a few steps away. Meeting here, can we consider it to be fate between us? If the magic machine hadn't still been there, I would have made you regret having this fate. My queen seems to have a deep resentment towards that magic machine, so I came to deal with it for her. Your Majesty, the queen probably refers to Lugo. When she and Misty attacked the Protoss Palace, Misty seemed to be following her orders. Maybe she had used the absolute skill she hated from the bottom of her heart countless times during her time in the Nemesis Society. Kingship. Is she here too? Of course the queen will be there in person. If you and I can't deal with the magic machine, she will take action herself. As far as Ica knows, Lolo is not particularly good at attacking magic. After being suddenly attacked by Lolo and Misty, Instructor Letica told Ica that her weapon was a silver-white sniper rifle. However, when Ica arrived at the scene, he did not see the sniper rifle that Teacher Letica mentioned with his own eyes, so he did not know why Lolo was holding the weapon. Although Weir did not specify where Lolo was, Ica did feel that the magic path between him and Lolo had resumed circulation after arriving at the center of the battlefield. Weir did not lie to himself. Lugo must be somewhere in the center of this battlefield. If you don't destroy the magic machine first, you can't meet Lugo. Weir jumped from the roof of the abandoned high-rise building, and the radiation muzzle on the magic mechanical spherical armor was instantly aimed at the moving object. Countless scarlet light spots flashed. Weir manipulated several dark green daggers surrounding him, easily deviating from the trajectory of the devastating artillery attack. The radiation cannon's laser not only created several ravines again, but also destroyed the tall building where Ica and the others were standing. But at the same time as Weir set off, Ica and Way 11 also jumped off tall buildings from different directions and rushed to the battlefield. The tall building, already doomed to be abandoned, kicked up a cloud of dust when it collapsed. The densely packed radiation muzzles did not all attack at the same time. The radiation cannon needs to be cooled down for each round of attack, and the algorithm of the round attack allows the magic machine to achieve seamless attacks in a short period of time. When Weir attracted the attention of the magic machine, the silver-white magic bombardment was shot out in a straight line where Weir and the magic machine were. However, when it was about to hit the magic machine, it was blocked by a magic barrier. As you can see, the magic barrier is its only self-protection hand. Even I have a hard time eroding the magic barrier while avoiding the attack. Will didn't mind that Ica's attack involved him. Among them, he was just observing the movements of the magic machine and said to Ica, "If the mission fails, the queen will not let me go easily, so we have the same goal, So let's join forces for the time being. Are you kidding? There is no possibility of you and I joining forces. Way 11, protect yourself first. I will deal with it as soon as possible and cover me. Without Aika's reminder, Way 11 also knew that the most important and equally important thing to her was to protect herself while providing assistance to Aika. Both of them must return home safely. Mechanical alchemy, skeleton circuit. Aika is equipped with a silver-white full-body exoskeleton, and the magic cannon barrel connected to his right arm has been strengthened by Hitomi. With the assistance of the full-body exoskeleton, he attacks the motionless magic machine. A part of the radiation muzzle of the spherical armor was aimed at Aika. The phosphorus birdcage. The blue barrier protected Aika from the indiscriminate bombardment of the magical machinery in time, but the radiation cannon produced by the magical technology was far from enough to break through Way 11's defense. With Way 11's protection, Aika quickly extended the long-barreled cannon body out of the tripod and placed it firmly on the ground after approaching the magic machine for a certain distance. 5 pure white magic arrays are stacked in layers from large to small in front of the long-barreled gun body. Multiple focus. Aika's bombardment exerted its power to the limit under the focus of Way 11's 5-layer barrier. Aika had already seen Weir's attack just now, so he didn't expect to be able to kill this behemoth with one shot. Sure enough, as Weir said, even the portable weapon's bombardment to its limit failed to break through the magic barrier of the magic machine. The silver-white magic power emitted from the long-barreled cannon dispersed in all directions like meteors, creating faults and ravines that were no less than the faults and ravines dug in the ground by the radiation cannon. On the other side, Weir broke through the magic barrier with a magic dagger with a penetration concept. However, the price of this penetration concept is that it can only target a single breakthrough. The damage that the magic weapon dagger can bring is not painful to this behemoth. If Weir's attack could only reach this level, it would be an insult to the name of the magic weapon. Disintegrate, Jack the Ripper. Weir softly called the name of his magic suit, and the dark green dagger pierced the steel armor and spread out a magic circle of the same color. Several magic arrays served as base points to merge again into a more complex large magic array, and the dark green magic power began to corrode the steel armor. Probably because Weir's attack triggered the built-in defense mechanism of the magic machine, the attack on Aika suddenly weakened, and most of the firepower was concentrated on Weir's side. Aika didn't miss this opportunity. He quickly put away the tripod and removed the long-barreled gun body, turned around and glanced at Way 11 who was hiding behind the rubble. Way 11 immediately changed the spell of the barrier with understanding. A huge pure white magic circle emerged between Weir and the magic machine, bearing all the artillery fire for him, and then converted all the artillery fire it endured into a torrent of pure magic power, which was poured back onto the magic barrier of the magic machine. Oh, thank you so much. In response to Weir's thanks, it was the bullets fired from Aika's twin guns. Weir calmly summoned a new dagger and collided with the external daggers of the twin guns. Oh, it seems I misunderstood. Get out of my way and stay out of the way. After using brute force to repel Weir, Aika kicked the ground with her feet and flashed above the Wixie barrier with the help of the propulsion device behind her exoskeleton. The energy returned by Way 11's barrier was dispersed by the magic barrier of the magic machine with a harsh impact sound, but the flickering magic barrier had obviously reached its limit. Hitomi, are you sure you can break through in one go? This level is nothing to worry about. The radiation cannon on the side of the spherical armor has captured Aika flying at high altitude. Aika quickly lowered his body, breaking through the hail of bullets like a runaway cheetah, and then pressed the muzzles of his two guns against the magic barrier. Overload, Manaratha's fangs. Hitomi, penetrate it for me. Aika stretched out her arms straight and pulled the triggers of both guns. The two silver-white light beams broke through the unstoppable magic barrier like the fangs of beasts and directly penetrated the steel armor hidden inside. The fire caused by the destruction instantly erupted from the inside and surface of the steel armor. It is now visually estimated that nearly half of the armaments on the surface of the spherical armor have been destroyed. Although the power of this attack was not enough to completely destroy the magic machine, it proved that the magic barrier was not insurmountable. Perhaps part of the credit for Ika's ability to completely penetrate the steel armor should be attributed to Weir. The erosion of his magic armor has completely changed the color of the surface of the steel armor. In fact, its interior is already fragile. Will chuckled and snapped his fingers. The several dark green daggers that broke through the magic barrier were like sharp scalpels, removing one of the mechanical legs of the magic machine. The huge steel body tilted violently. Ika, who was instantly distanced from the magic machine by the reaction force of the shot, took advantage of this opportunity and quickly switched weapons. Mechanical alchemy, Predator. Hitomi, prepare the same magic as before. To be honest, Ika's current fighting style is indeed inspired by Veer, but it doesn't matter anymore. He just wanted to defeat this piece of junk as soon as possible, rush to Luo, and fulfill his oath. Overloaded the fangs of Manaroth. Silver-white magic light beams with magic arrays imprinted on their surfaces were shot out from 6 floating cannons and began to gradually disintegrate the magic machinery in front of them. But this is not enough. The opponent is a magic machine made of cold parts. It does not feel tired and its attacks are very accurate. As a human, Ika will become a victim if he is not careful. Just when Ika turned his attention to Way 11, the appearance of the magic machine suddenly changed. The spherical armor unfolded like a flower, and the magic machine that used all the weapons inside the armor became a complete heavy weapons platform. This change happens in an instant. The magic machine quickly changed its original attack mode and aimed all its weapons at Ika in mid-air. The saturation attack is like a giant blade of light slashing straight down from above. A dazzling beam of light pierced the sky, with enough momentum to split the earth. Just brushing against Way 11's barrier had already caused an impact that was enough to shatter the internal organs. The ground has become a mess. Among the debris flying in the sky, Ika could not find Weir's figure. Since he still escaped such a sudden attack, Weir should not become a scapegoat so easily. Ika was not in the mood to care whether Veer was dead or alive at the moment. He felt the contract between himself and Way 11 with his heart and shouted her name loudly. Way 11, are you okay? Although there was some noise, the answer that Way 11 was safe and sound could still be heard in the headset, and Ika finally felt relieved. Although he had escaped a fatal attack just now, it would be difficult to withstand attacks of that magnitude a few more times. Ika decided not to delay any longer, and in the next attack he devoted all his power to the strongest weapon he could use now. A joint armed force composed of multiple groups of gunports revealed the tip of the iceberg from the torn space cracks. Mechanical alchemy Yggdrasil. The magic barrier of the magic machine is like a thin layer of paper, torn apart by the silver-white magic power. Several cracks began to appear on the giant body, and the cracks covered the fragile armor surface in a matter of seconds. The steel armor broke and exploded in an instant. The shock wave quickly enveloped the surrounding area, as if everything was dyed with silvery white light. Like the silver sun, it bloomed with the dazzling light of victory. A strong wind swept across the entire battlefield, and the unmoving magical machinery was indeed as Ika wished, with not even a single part left. Way 11, who had always been careful to protect herself and Ika in the flames of war, relaxed her vigilance and ran towards Ika from behind the bunker. Weir, who did not know whether to live or die under the saturation attack of the magic machine, appeared beside Way 11 at some point, and used a dagger with a dark green luster to lightly pass over Way 11's leg. Because the wound was too shallow, Way 11 didn't even feel pain. What confused her was the symptoms that followed. The strength of the body seemed to be lost in an instant, and the pace towards Ika gradually slowed down. The whole world before my eyes seemed to be spinning and distorted. When she caught a glimpse of the flying white trench coat in the corner of her field of vision, Way 11 realized the source of her physical symptoms, but it was already too late. Cannot. Bringing trouble to Brother Ika. The status of the contracted magic equipment will also be fed back to the holder. The warning that Hitomi once mentioned sounded in Way 11's mind as her consciousness gradually blurred. Ika didn't seem to notice it yet, but Way 11 couldn't even open her mouth to pronounce his name. At least, work hard until the end. This way, Luoluo won't run away. She moved her fingertips slightly and activated the barrier that restricted all teleportation magic in the area. A little bit unwilling. After this war is over, it would be great if we could become partners. She took the initiative to terminate the contract that symbolized the happy memories between the two, and like a candle in the wind, only the original wish remained in her consciousness. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 422. Before the fatigue after the fierce battle could subside, Ika realized something was strange about her body. The contract connecting him and Way 11 disappeared, which was a feeling of loss in a certain part of his heart, as if it had been hollowed out. Way 11. However, what came from the headset was the man's voice. She can no longer answer you. In Weir's hand, he held the headset that belonged to Way 11, and Way 11 fell limply at his feet. Veil. Ika roared like a beast from his throat, as if he had returned from hell. The next moment, the power of the exoskeleton was fully activated, and he turned into a silver-white light and flashed in front of Weir's eyes. Without any reservation, he raised the two guns in his hands without any hesitation, and the daggers extending from the gun bodies shone with a ferocious light. Get away from her. What reflected in Ika's eyes was Veer's disbelieving expression. It turns out that it only takes a few tenths of a second for a person's expression to change. Ika learned this fact for the first time from the face of her mortal enemy. Reason or anything else simply does not exist in his consciousness at this moment. Ika let the anger drive her and swung the sharp blade, throwing her arm under the white windbreaker into the air. He must be torn apart without mercy. He must be torn into pieces without mercy. Ethics were completely forgotten by Ika at this moment. Dragging the bloody severed limb, Weir could only rely on conditioned reflexes to distance himself from the god of death. At that moment, Weir instinctively protected his right arm at the cost of sacrificing his left arm below the elbow. Another sharp blade cut a shocking gash from his right shoulder to his lower left abdomen. The white windbreaker was quickly stained red by the blood that poured out. I didn't expect it to be so. In this state, Weir is already at a clear disadvantage. But he still grinned with a twisted smile. What did you do to Way 11? This little girl is too dangerous, I can only ask her to leave first. Ika didn't continue to talk nonsense. This time the sharp blade stabbed straight into Weir's heart without any deviation. But Weir did not make the same mistake again. The friction between several daggers and the blades of the twin guns produced dazzling sparks, abruptly changing the trajectory of the blade that could take away a life in one blow. This big movement also caused Weir to spurt out a near-fatal amount of blood while avoiding it. Although he used elemental magic to burn the wound to stop the bleeding, Ika bit him like a bloodthirsty beast. The queen seems to have no intention of treating me. Lolo, who was somewhere nearby, must have seen Weir's embarrassing appearance being chased by Ika, but she did not use her best healing magic and potion science to help Weir. Weir's dagger cannot threaten Ika now. In Ika's eyes, the flow of time seemed to have slowed down several times. It was probably because Hitomi released the auxiliary magic that strengthened physical strength. His spear and sword knocked down the daggers one after another while still having the power to threaten Weir's life. Predator. As the literal meaning of the name suggests, if the 6 floating cannons hunt down the venomous snakes of their prey, they will inadvertently drill bloody holes in Weir's body. No matter how fast Weir's body reacts, it cannot reach the speed of light of the floating cannon rays. At this moment, Ika didn't worry at all that he would accidentally kill Veer, because even if he used his life to repay the crime he committed, it would still not be enough. Transform the two spears into long-barreled cannons, use them as spears to hit Weir with a swift blow, then grab him by the collar faster than the opponent was knocked away, and focus all his anger on the door. In this punch, reinforced by the exoskeleton of the whole body, this punch is powerful enough to penetrate the steel plate. The body that had been nearly torn apart by the beast was shot away like a fluttering leaf, and penetrated several layers of ruined walls before falling back to the ground. There was a sound of breaking wind, and Ika pointed his long-barreled cannon at the broken body that he was stepping on. I will take Lugo back with my own hands, and you can give Way 11 back to me. There is no way to remove the poison from Jack the Ripper. Even if she kills me, she won't be able to survive. Then please die. Ika didn't want to waste any more words with him and decisively pulled the trigger of the long-barreled gun. The muzzle exploded, the ruined asphalt road was penetrated by the silver-white magic light beam, and the skeleton of the underground structure appeared in front of us. The underground drainage system made of dozens of layers of reinforced concrete was violently penetrated and twisted into indescribable shapes, forming a deep hole that went straight to the ground. Under the simple and crude destructive power of mechanical alchemy, human beings without reinforced concrete bodies will only be shattered like dust. Ika panted heavily, opened her bloodshot red eyes, and moved to Way 11's side with an exhausted pace. Picking up the weak body that was already dying, her slightly opened eyes had lost focus. Ika, brother. Way 11 tried her best to raise her hand and stroked Ika's cheek with her fingertips. The bloodless lips moved slightly, leaving Ika with no words left. Hitomi said, "Use this." The warm magic power melted in Ika's body, and Way 11 gave him the last magic as a relic. "Use this, to bring Lugo back." After speaking, she raised the corners of her mouth slightly. Way 11 didn't cry. She didn't want her crying face to remain in Ika's heart at the last moment. But that smile that seemed to be moistened by unshed tears was simply unacceptable to Ika. "I also want to be together." The feeling caressing Ika's cheek disappeared. Way 11's fingertips slid down weakly from Ika's cheek and fell on his lap. At this moment, Ika was so eager to stop time from the previous second. Even if he couldn't stop Weir's sneak attack, he at least wanted to save Way 11's remaining life until the last moment. The warmth left by the gentle fingertips on the cheek was wiped away in an instant by the smoke. "No matter what, you can never get this warmth back." "Master, do you still have something to do?" Hitomi stood silently beside the two people hugging each other. "Shuechaozuji has done what he should do." Ika couldn't listen to Hitomi's words at all, and the fact that Way 11's time had stopped was cruelly placed in front of him. Lugo should have used Orchid Heart's absolute royal power on himself. Orchid Heart's ability is absolute. Even if he enters the spiritual world of Orchid Heart, he cannot release the absolute royal power order. Only by externally sealing the ability of absolute royal power can the master regain Lugo's feelings. Shuechaozuji has sealed all the teleportation magic in this area, and Lugo cannot leave here for the time being. She has just been entrusted to you. The magic is a barrier spell that can seal the absolute royal power from the outside. This may be the master's last chance. Does the master want to waste the opportunity she created for you with her life? Is hugging her like this her true wish? Is she willing to let her efforts go to waste in exchange for such a cheap hug? What are we fighting for so far? Hitomi's words didn't mean any questioning, but they were like a loud slap on Ika's face, helping him stand up again. He hugged Way 11's body and lay down against the stone slabs of the ruins. He took off his coat and covered her body. "Now we can only let her sleep here temporarily." Ika gritted her teeth, trying hard to get rid of the grief-stricken negative feelings in her heart and concentrate. If Lugo was still nearby, with such stirring emotions deep in his heart, he would be able to sense her location through the magical path connecting the two. Ika easily captured the breath that only belonged to Lugo in the silence. Sure enough, she stayed where she was. Aika disarmed her exoskeleton and other weapons, and walked step by step towards the girl who told her to keep the promise with an unguarded and frank attitude. No matter how Lugo thinks of himself now, he will not fight against his sister. Seeing Aika approaching step by step, the silver-white sniper rifle in Lugo's hand transformed into a long mechanical knife. Aika is very familiar with that weapon conversion mode. That was a magical equipment ability called mechanical alchemy that should have originally belonged to Hitomi. I don't want to see you. But I want to see you. Aika didn't stop, even though Lugo on the opposite side raised the long knife in his hand. Lugo, I'm here to fulfill the oath I made in front of you that night. I'm here to take you, grab it back, and you will be standing here now. Lugo frowned slightly. It seemed that she had forgotten the agreement between the two in the dream. Of course, Aika didn't expect to use the agreement in the dream to change her mind. You don't have to endure it anymore. Whether it's pain or loneliness, you don't need to bear it alone. I took on everything for you. Before we get the result, the two of us will always be two parallel lines that do not intersect. It seems you still remember me. I'm still worried about what I will do if the absolute kingship erases all the memories related to me. Aika's smile reflected in Lugo's red eyes. Even though he was only a few centimeters away from the long knife and the tip of the knife was already pressed against his chest, he still opened his tolerant mind towards Lugo. I am your brother. A brother exists to protect his sister. Just when Lugo was still hesitant about Aika's move, he grabbed the blade with his bare hands without hesitation and forcibly took away Lugo's freedom to wield the knife. Finally realizing Aika's intention, Lolo immediately tried to pull out the long knife from Aika's control, but to no avail. Aika wouldn't give her a chance to escape. Your strength, confidence, weakness, and insecurity are all borne by me. No, we should bear them together. Lugo's cold eyes finally showed signs of wavering. She shook her head slightly in confusion, and her hands gradually let go of the hilt of the knife. Aika's blood dripped onto the ground along the blade. Mixed into the dust, it becomes the color of dust. He still has countless things he wants to say to Lugo. I want to tell her how hard Way 11 worked for her. Leave all these words to her after she comes back. Aika activated Way 11's last gift to herself and Lugo. Pure white magic bloomed, enveloping the two in the center of such gentle light. The redness in Lugo's eyes gradually faded. Unconsciously, 2 lines of clear tears slid down her cheeks. However, the cold blade passed through Lugo's hands and sank into Aika's chest. The hands holding the handle of the knife seemed to be no longer a part of her body, and they started to move naturally. Why, it becomes like this. When Lugo came back to his senses, he even forgot to let go of the handle of the knife and collapsed on the ground in shock. It never occurred to her to do this. The blood-stained weapon was like a heavy shackle, imprisoning Lugo's body and mind. The blood of the beloved flowed along the blade to Lugo's fingertips. The heat was like being burned by a flame, stimulating every cell in Lugo's body. It was as if time had stopped, when she blinked again. Well. The mouth that could only make meaningless moans was blocked by a kiss that could not be explained and was extremely forceful. Image. There is no sweet saliva between the lips, only mucus mixed with the smell of blood. Aika hugged her body tightly as if she wanted to merge with Lugo, not even leaving a chance for her to let go of the hilt of the knife. Originally, only 1/3 of the blade entered, but now it has completely submerged into Aika's body. But for Aika, who had held her tightly in his arms, the pain had long been isolated from his senses, leaving only the softness and warmth in his arms in his world. It seemed that as long as he let go of his hand, Lugo might disappear from sight at any time. After finally catching her, there was no reason to let go. This kiss only lasted a few seconds, but it had already left the deepest meaning in each other's hearts so far. I'm sorry, such a kiss is not romantic at all, is it? Aika, who had lost too much blood, was already furious, but he stroked Luoluo's cheek with a force that could not be refused, and wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes, so that only his own figure could be reflected in her eyes. When consciousness was hazy, Aika vaguely saw the figure of a girl with bun hair in her blurred vision, as well as the wave of magic equipment that she thought she had completely defeated in the past. He knew that this time, he still failed to save Luoluo. At least, Luoluo can hear what he said now, so he must seize the opportunity to convey it to her no matter what. Luoluo, you are wrong. When she learned the truth about the magic costume at Liuyan's mansion, Aika wanted to hide her heavy family background from Luoluo, but she saw through it at a glance. Only when my brother is happy will I feel happy. At that time, Luoluo did not ask for the truth, but just stroked his cheek and comforted him. From beginning to end, Luoluo's wish never changed. And Aika was immersed in her tolerant love and gradually found the source of happiness. Before you get happiness, my happiness is out of the question. This is happiness in Aika's definition. Luoluo's lips had already been dyed bright red by that extremely tough kiss. It was a taste that she could not like no matter what. But, this is his. Despite this. That's all. She swallowed Aika's blood into her mouth and slightly narrowed her eyes that could no longer shed tears. Stretching out his hand, he held up the blood-stained face reflected in his eyes. No matter how many times I touch you in dreams, only this moment is the most real. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 423. Long time no see or meeting for the first time. Hello everyone, this is Muse Hiking. It's postscript time again. Here, I can even, sorry, I went wrong. So here I present to you a love story from another world. This work continues the plot of the first 11 volumes and describes the youth, passion, friendship, love of young boys and girls, especially those who are ignorant and have mixed emotions. Ideal and Struggle is a light comedy with the characteristics of the times, daily atmosphere and otherworldly style. Sorry, Uncle Benchen went to the wrong set. That's it. The themes of youth, passion, friendship, love, ideals, and hard work are not biased in the reporting. In the previous volume, I couldn't stop whenever I wrote about the battle scenes, but in this volume, I couldn't stop whenever I wrote about the interactions between Aika and the girls, and between girls, so you may feel this again. This school battle light novel returns to the style of the original youth romance drama. But what I want to show this time is the sweet and sour youth love drama, Ruby's longing and attachment to her big brother, the little smile-making competition between Way 11 and Hitomi, and Luoluo and Aika's desire for the illusory happiness in dreams form the theme of this volume. In fact, I personally like this girl Hitomi very much. Well, it's officially acknowledged. I designed her identity to be almost the same as Way 11. She is also a magic suit that has formed a contract with Aika, and she is also a companion who can accompany Aika in the form of a girl. But Way 11 came first, and this cannot be changed. Even as the author who designed these two girls, I was very curious about what kind of sparks they would create when they met, and then I deliberately arranged the two of them together this time, and it turned out that they were going in that direction. Development trend, laughs. Then comes the final chapter, which revolves around the illusory happiness between Aika and Luoluo, and Way 11's departure. The book review activity has ended. This time I have received many comments about this work. I am very grateful to the readers who left these precious book reviews. The book review from the reader's perspective revealed many details that I had not noticed, and allowed me to reread my own work from a fresh perspective, and even gained a new insight of that's it. Although the worldview, characters, and plot are constructed by me, my understanding of them may actually be far less than that of you readers. So hopefully there will be more opportunities like this where we can see their journey from a different perspective. In this way, I present to you the 12th volume of Endless Silver Tools. The following is a thank you. Painter Kombucha Teacher, Thank you very much for fulfilling my long-held wish to have Wei 11 wear white silk. With white hair and white silk, she is indeed a sweet girl who is called a pure white girl in my heart. Compared to the dazzling cover, the color illustration has a completely opposite style, a sad scene that goes against Ika and Lolo's wishes. Editor-in-Chief, Mr. Cheese, thank you once again for taking great care of me. It is precisely because of your continued support that this work is what it is today, and it is possible to present to readers the world that Mr. Kombucha and I have imagined. Dear readers, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to you, which cannot be expressed in words. I think I can only use your favorite works to express my gratitude for your continued support. Volume 13 will be serialized in a week, so stay tuned. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 426. The capital of King Tiburai, as the last piece of pure land at the center of the war, still maintains normal operations before the war between the two countries broke out. The encirclement of the Bis Empire is gradually shrinking, and there is no third party in the human country except these two countries. Under such difficult circumstances, citizens from the periphery who were affected by the war flocked to inner cities to seek refuge. Accepting too many refugees has threatened the operation of some central cities. With the influx of large numbers of refugees, issues such as public security that seriously threaten urban development have gradually emerged. The royal capital assumes the important task of being the center of the Tiburai kingdom. If we are paralyzed as the war becomes more intense, the front-line battlefields will also lose the backbone of their faith. For this reason, the king could only be forced to limit the admission of refugees in the royal capital. Standing here, I can't imagine what a mess it is outside. After receiving the notice in the morning, Ling, Lanming, and the diplomats sent by the kingdom came to wait outside the palace. Ling looked at the sky that had not cleared for several days and murmured to himself. In this peaceful environment, without access to the military intelligence of the Tiburai kingdom, she had no way of knowing the situation in the outside world. Although the information will still come in, it just lacks a certain sense of reality. Didn't Ika and the others already tell us the situation when they arrived at the battlefield yesterday? Lanming turned to Ling and whispered to Ling, although whispering now seemed a bit rude to diplomats. It is said that their area is the most peaceful area, maybe because the magician troops introduced the mimicry magic equipment, so the Imperial Army did not dare to attack them casually. So they should be leisurely collecting information about the mimicry magic equipment now. If you think about it, you will know how Ika could collect information carefully. This was just a joke that Lanming deliberately made to make the frowning Ling want to laugh a little. Since Ling smiled bitterly in line with his joke, Lanming had achieved the effect she wanted. We're almost there, they. Lanming looked at the road extending in front of the palace. There was only the rustling sound of the morning breeze blowing the branches and leaves of the plants nearby. What everyone is waiting for are the visitors from other countries who arrived in the royal capital early this morning. The war on the front-line battlefield is developing into a raging stage, and the foreign aid forces arranged by the Holy See have bypassed the eyes of the Bis Empire and entered the supposedly hostile territory. After all, the Holy See is still nominally affiliated with the Bis Empire, and it is impossible to betray friendly forces in a big way. Although there are only 2 knights of the Holy See as reinforcements, they are only 8 knights in blue in the Holy See. Each of them is strong enough to be worth a well-trained army. In front of the silent road, the unique sound of the mechanical engine revving of the kingdom's general-purpose locomotives could be heard. Here he comes. Ling looked at the black spots that were gradually getting bigger down the slope. She still couldn't imagine what kind of changes the Holy See Knights would bring when they came here. The slightly bulky iron locomotive gradually slowed down as it approached the palace. With the weakened sound of the engine, the locomotive stopped steadily in front of everyone. The person who opened the backseat door and stepped out was a young girl who was similar in age to Senior Lilith. The medium-length hair that reaches past the shoulders shines with a charming brilliance, and under the slender eyebrows are the charming blue eyes. Although she was a holy sea knight who was described by Way 11 as very powerful in combat and mind, and her swordsmanship is almost the same as Ling's, there was no sharpness in her eyes at all, there was only gentle kindness. Blue and white, the two main colors of the knight uniform, are elegant and natural. She wears a white pleated scarf at the front of her clothes, a close-fitting top and a knee-length skirt, black suspenders and boots, which fully show off the slim and graceful appearance of the young girl. I am Oliver, the Blue Knight of the Holy See. If no special circumstances arise during this period, I will assist Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Mingyila until the end of the Holy See's mission. I hope we can cooperate happily. The girl bowed slightly to greet everyone who came to greet them, and then smiled without leaving any trace. The girl who calls herself Orefhel is closer to the eldest lady of a noble family than a knight. If it weren't for the noble rapier with carved patterns hanging around her waist, people who saw her for the first time might have a hard time connecting such a girl with a delicate temperament to the awe-inspiring battle. Among the people present, only Lan Ming had ever had a relationship with the Holy Sea Knight Oliver. Your Excellency Oliver, thank you very much for taking such a big risk for us this time. It's really been a long time, Your Highness Princess. I never thought that the first time we join hands would be on such an occasion. I never thought that one day I would become your protector. Because a lot of things have changed. Oliver narrowed his eyes as if remembering the past. The Empire is like this, and so is the Holy See. When the topic stalled in a strange direction, Ling, who was also involved, took the lead in pushing aside all the things he didn't understand. First time meeting, Miss Olafil, I am Ling Heinz. Ling's self-introduction attracted Olafil, who was in a slightly sad state. I also stay here for Lan Ming. As someone with the same goal partner, please take care of me. Before I came here, I had already heard about your situation from His Holiness the Pope. I also know more or less about you and the history of the Heinz family and the Holy See. Ling can be said to be a person who has a profound connection with the Holy See. Probably no one in the upper echelons of the Holy See does not know her name. Nowadays, the Holy See's treatment of the Heinz family has not become a recognized fact. Only Ika and Ling, who had a glimpse of the past, and the mastermind Pope Seth himself know, so Orefhel has no idea about this topic that he knows about. A bit taboo. I'm sorry, I didn't participate in that mission, and I don't know much about the specific situation. But it is said that you and our Holy See have reached a certain degree of reconciliation. Can I understand it this way? Originally, the issue that everyone had not considered for the time being was now brought to the table again by Oliafil, who was unaware of it. Although looking back now, the hidden truth cannot make Ling completely relieved. It's just that he doesn't need to bear the family's cross all his life, and he no longer has to regard the Holy See as the object of revenge. It is also his own initiative to not let Way 11 liberate the Heinz family members. For many reasons. Ling wanted to express a simple idea: generally speaking, we and the Holy See should be partners in the same boat now. Since we have decided to cooperate, it is better to put down the previous baggage and just find a way to solve the problem at hand. Isn't it a better question? After hearing what Ling, the client, said, Olive, who seemed to be worried that she would reject him, should feel relieved. After the two people got to know each other, Lan Ming mentioned the doubts he had when he only saw her getting off the motorcycle. Your Excellency Oliver, shouldn't the person who was supposed to come here with you include Your Excellency Liu Yin? Liu Yin, Oliver held her cheek and chuckled as if she knew Lan Ming would ask this question. On the way here with her, she heard that Xiao 11 and the Qin's family, that boy was in a very dangerous place, so he insisted on helping but changed his schedule midway. Way 11 also asked me to send a message to her. Whenever she encounters something related to Xiao 11, Liu Yin will go to her side first. Even in the Holy See, no one can stop her. Oliaphil, who was traveling with her, could only take the place of those who were not here. Liuyan apologized to everyone. Let me take on Liuyan's job for the time being. I'm really sorry. Miss Oliaphil is not wrong. Ling Tiao looked at the distant front-line battlefield and could see the same sky when she raised her head, but I didn't expect to be exposed to her so quickly. Originally, everyone thought that Liuyan would know nothing about the situation on the front-line battlefield, so that she could come to the royal capital first, and then find a way to make her wait until they came back according to Wei 11's idea, but unexpectedly she was even delayed. She had no chance. Ling has personally experienced Liuyan's powerful strength many times. Even though Wei 11 hoped that she could keep Liuyan in a safe area like the royal capital, Ling still hoped in her heart that she could help Ika and the others who were on the front-line battlefield. The current situation coincided with her thoughts. Now that Lord Liuyan has gone there, the burden on Ika and the others should be reduced a lot. At this point, Lan Ming could only smile and think about the most ideal direction. As long as we have if Mr. Lefel is here, there will be no problem. I also hope to find the meaning of my existence here, and I will be taken care of by you during this period. Ling felt that there seemed to be something strange about Oliaph's words, but she couldn't tell what was strange. Orephel's gentle image does not look like a holy sea knight who is good at fighting. The delicate rapier hanging on her waist is more like an ornament under the soft aura exuding from her body. However, the Holy Sea Knights are such a group of people. A barrier magic genius whose eyes always drift here and there when speaking, not daring to make eye contact, an elemental magic genius who is good at pretending to be a grown-up, but in reality is still childish, a person who is informal in every aspect of his daily life. Magical mechanics genius. The above three Holy Sea Knights that Ling knew were worthy of careful evaluation. Therefore, although Oliaphel left a gentle and sweet first impression on Ling, Ling would not really underestimate her true strength hidden under that smile. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 427. Silence returned to the center of the smoke-filled battlefield. Far away from the royal capital, drizzle began to fall on the front-line battlefield located in the outer circle of Tiburai. The dust flying in the air sank to the ground with the raindrops. Even so, the view was still very poor. There are no intact buildings left standing in the center of the battlefield, and there are more ruins with only skeletons left. From time to time, they collapse due to gravity, kicking up the soil that has been mixed with the rain. This place was immediately taken over by the army of the Tiburai kingdom. Judging from the results, the giant magical machinery of the BZ Empire was completely destroyed, which was a complete victory for the Tiburai kingdom. The BZ Empire's army will not continue to threaten the stronghold occupied by the kingdom's army for the time being. Although this victory came at a heavy price. Rescue in place now? Don't move until his vital signs are stable. There are 2 girls with him. Is the lifting gear in place? Even if you dig 3 feet into the ground, you have to find it for me. Report, one of them has been found. The kingdom's army first found Ika in the center of the battlefield. The kingdom's potion magicians accompanying the army immediately skillfully built a mobile camp on the spot and treated his injuries urgently. Ika suffered a shocking penetrating injury to his abdomen, and the soil beneath him was dyed the color of blood. When the kingdom's army found him, he fell alone among the ruins. Wei 11, who was far away from Ika, was also searched by the kingdom's army not long after. She was lying peacefully in an empty safe area in the distance, covered with a black windbreaker, as if she really just fell asleep. But after the medical soldier initially examined her, he could only shake his head regretfully. Yet, as an army commander who has been around death all year round, he has heard such reports countless times. But only this time, seeing a girl about the same age as his daughter become a victim of human war, his heart, which had been tempered to a rock-hard state, suddenly trembled. Not only that, she had no obligation to sacrifice her life for the Tiburai kingdom, but she lost her bright future. Above her sorrow was a higher respect. The commander stood in front of Wei 11, who fell into eternal sleep. He took off his military cap and placed it on his chest. He lowered his head slightly and closed his eyes to express his condolences for the sleeping girl in front of him. The soldiers around the officer also imitated their superiors and put their military caps on their chests to mourn Wei 11. This several-minute-long ceremony came to an end with the sharp sound of tire friction. A motorcycle equipped with mountain rubber tires rolled over gravel and drove towards the center of the battlefield, kicking up dirt in the air behind its rear wheels like a wild horse. It was a military vehicle of the kingdom's army. In addition to the traces left by years of riding on the battlefield, the surface of the car body also has new scars. You can tell at a glance that it has experienced new battles on the way here. The dilapidated military motorcycle rubbed a deep tire mark in the wasteland, and finally broke down due to the heavy load along the way. Thick smoke came out of the engine in the front of the body, and it stopped with a harsh noise. The license plate of that car is the number of our camp. The commander immediately returned to the cautious attitude when commanding the army and put on his military cap again. I have not arranged for them to come at this time. The soldiers paid their last respects to Wei 11, put on their military caps, and raised their guns and staffs. The unknown driver of the motorcycle was probably snatched from the camp by hostile forces. If the vehicle was used to disguise itself as one's own personnel and penetrated inside, the consequences would be disastrous. The car door, which was so twisted that it was unclear whether it could still be pushed open, finally separated naturally from the car body when it was opened. It would be better to say that there was some force inside that forced the door that could not be opened open. The soldiers who raised their weapons were all tense and on the verge of breaking out. If the other party was really a hostile force, they were ready to concentrate their firepower to annihilate them. Judging from the force of pushing open the twisted car door, it seems that the other party is not an easy target to subdue. But what emerged from the bulky military motorcycle was a girl who seemed to be just hitching a ride. She was wearing a guerrilla casual outfit that didn't feel like racing against death on the battlefield at all. Her long silver ponytail hung down from behind her sports hat. She looked about the same age as the sleeping girl they were protecting behind them. How many? It even makes people wonder whether she personally drove the heavy motorcycle that contrasted so obviously with her petite figure all the way here from the camp a few kilometers away, and whether there were other people in the motorcycle. Even if this girl is really an enemy force, they have never seen such a young girl on the battlefield before, so they have to hesitate to attack her out of ethics. Everyone get out of the way. Facing dozens of guns and staffs aimed at her, the girl who looked to be only about 12 or 13 years old did not show any fear at all. Instead, she was surprisingly calm, which made the soldiers feel inexplicable pressure and fear. Every time the girl took a step forward, the soldiers holding weapons became more shaken. Many of them couldn't help but look at the commander in the middle, hoping that he would give the order. This was just a way to alleviate their own guilt out of helplessness. It was almost time to ask her about her identity. Just when the commander had this plan, the headset received a message from the camp. "It's me." Listening to the report on the other side of the headset, the officer looked at the silver-haired girl who was approaching step by step. "Really, I understand, I will handle it here." After ending the communication in the camp, the commander confirmed to the unidentified girl in a loud voice. "Excuse me, are you the knight in blue sent by the Holy See, Your Excellency Liu Yin? I didn't bring anything to prove my identity. When I came here, I asked people from the Tiberai Kingdom to greet you in advance. Have you contacted me now?" "It is true that I just received the contact." The commander stretched out his hand and motioned for the soldiers to put down their weapons. "I'm sorry, it's a bit rude to treat friends from other countries like this." The soldiers finally breathed a sigh of relief. No one really wanted to attack such a young girl. Especially when I had to accept the painful fact that a child of the same age passed away in front of me not long ago. Originally, as the head of the army, I should be held accountable for your use of force to seize our military vehicles. But you seem to have rushed over here because you heard that we were having difficulties. I will not be concerned about your behavior this time. Investigated. After apologizing for the rude way of greeting him, the commander also used his identity as an army commander to warn this uninvited friend from another country. While they were talking, the silver-haired girl Liuyan had already arrived in front of the group of soldiers. The soldiers, who were more than 2 heads taller than Liuyan, were like a high wall between her and Wei 11, but Liuyan could see Wei 11 lying on the rock behind them through the gap between the walls at a glance. Xiao 11, how is she doing? Unfortunately, the commander did not drag his feet. He somewhat thought that the girl in front of him had some kind of connection with the girl who fell asleep forever, but he did not hide it from her. A glimmer of light seemed to flash in Liuyan's eyes. But she quickly lowered her head and did not question him again. The Knights of the Holy See are absolutely not allowed to cry on such occasions. If she heard this news for the first time and was unprepared, she would not have the confidence to control herself. But while driving here, she already knew the information transmitted from the camp and the battlefield center through the car radio. What Ika and Wei 11 were going through was a life-threatening battle. The commander also seemed to see Liuyan's difficulty. Although she didn't ask any questions, the chief told her about the other person's situation. The young man who was traveling with her is over there. His life should not be in danger now. There is another young girl who is following her. It is said that no one saw her boarding the airship when they set off, and there is no one in the center of the battlefield now. Find her whereabouts. Where are the enemies? Liuyan finally squeezed out these words. The magic machine dropped by the BZ Empire has been destroyed by them. After that, they seem to have had a conflict with someone else. But the process was very short. The power of destroying the magic machine interfered with our unmanned aerial vehicle machine, so the enemy's movements were not tracked, and no bodies were found at the scene. The underground system that was penetrated by Ika in a rage also sent out search teams. But apart from the ruins of the walls, the enemies who were supposed to fall to the deep underground at the same time were nowhere to be found. Liuyan did not continue to ask. She lowered her head and took a step forward. The wall of people silently made way for her, guiding her towards the sleeping white-haired girl with her eyes closed. Wei 11 lay on the flat rock, her black windbreaker shielding her from the smoke of the battlefield. When Liuyan met Ika in Pufa town, he was wearing this windbreaker, so she knew that this was Ika's concern for Wei 11. Wei 11 was as peaceful as sleeping. If you gently pat her cheek now, will she come over in a daze? Liuyan even harbored a glimmer of such a fantasy. I couldn't believe that she would never wake up from her sleep, as those people said. Hiss. It wasn't until he came to Wei 11 in person and turned his back to the group of soldiers that Liuyan sniffed and knelt down in front of Wei 11. Holding the small hand exposed under the windbreaker, the cold temperature once again proved the ruthless fact to Liuyan. At this moment, Liuyan truly realized that he could no longer feel the warmth from Wei 11's body, and he could not even see her for the last time. Hiss, hiss. Liuyan kept sniffing to suppress the increasingly uncontrollable sobs, holding Wei 11's weak hand against his forehead with both hands. There were still many things he wanted to say to her. Liuyan had already thought about them all before leaving the Holy See, but he never thought that all the thousands of words would eventually be buried in his heart forever. No matter how hard she suppressed her crying, it was completely exposed in the eyes of the adults behind her. In the hearts of those soldiers, they hoped that she could cry happily, which would make her feel a little better. Liuyan's tears had already flowed down his cheeks, and each drop was mixed into the dust on the ground, mixed with the brown dust that had been soaked in rain. We are going to send her back to the camp first. If you agree, the funeral will be held there. No. Liuyan deeply imprinted the touch in his hand at this moment in his heart, cutting off the last nostalgia. She put down Wei 11's little hand and stood up on the spot. The biting cold air spread out from her whole body and spread throughout the center of the battlefield in an instant. This is not only to keep Wei 11, but also to freeze the magic in her heart. If you want to keep Wei 11 in this world forever, you can only use this method. Even if it's just for your own selfish desires. This is. The officers and soldiers retreated involuntarily under the pressure of the huge magic power. Even the most powerful kingdom magician in the magician army has never seen such strong magic power. I'm sorry, Xiao 11, I can only do this. As long as your heart is frozen as cold as solid ice, you can do it. In a matter of seconds, Han Bing built a sealed ice coffin that was 2 people high, and contained the white-haired girl who fell into a deep sleep forever. In the center of this dusty battlefield, the icy white coffin showed infinite sanctity and sorrow. As long as she stays here, you don't need to worry, please send her back to the camp. Okay, we will arrange to transport it by airboat. The ice coffin can keep Wei 11's time at this moment forever. Perhaps it should be called the Eternal Coffin. Through the ice coffin constructed with his own magic, Liu Yin can feel Wei 11's presence at all times. But the body that can no longer feel the warmth will only stimulate Liu Yin's heart all the time. This approach is like self-abuse. She just wanted to keep Wei 11 in this world forever. The potion magicians of the Tiburai Kingdom have completed emergency treatment for Ika at the mobile camp. Probably due to excessive blood loss, Ika's face showed a pale anemia and symptoms of magic exhaustion syndrome. Even Liu Yin, who had little contact with pharmacy, could see it at a glance. How is he? Even so, Liu Yin could only ask the kingdom's potion magician in the most calm manner. Since arriving here, Liu Yin has never shown his sincerity, and has never shown the pain in his heart on his expression. Because she is now the envoy sent by the Holy See to communicate between Lan Mingyila and the Tiburai Kingdom, she shoulders a very heavy responsibility. Liu Yin didn't want to let go of the sense of responsibility that Wei 11 admired most in the past. But she also wanted to do what Ika said, think more about herself and be her true self. The result was like this: even I didn't know what I was doing, I was just walking back and forth between Wei 11 and Ika. No matter what I can do for them or what I want to do, I have not realized it. I heard that those students from Shijetsutsu Academy are now on the front lines. Isn't it possible? Shouldn't they stay in the capital and wait for us to pass? This is war, not a game where you can just run in if you want to participate, and quit at any time if you don't want to participate. I don't know what they think. That child from the Kin's family is a student of coconut, right? The ability of the legendary mechanical alchemy is equivalent to several armies, and our proud Zioxy is also guarding him. Even if he goes to the front line battlefield, he will return safely. Wait, did you just say that Xiao 11 also went with that person? No, this is already the confidential military information of the Tiburai Kingdom, right? Think about it carefully, it's impossible for you to have this kind of information, right? I have arranged for spies to deal with matters in the Tiburai Kingdom before, so the authenticity should still be guaranteed. What's wrong, Liu Yin? Can't you sit still when you hear Xiao 11's name? Orpheal, can I leave the royal capital to you temporarily? I will find a way to bring them back as soon as possible. Really, the most important issue now is not to get involved in any war at all. After Orpheal told Liu Yin this information on the way to King Tiburai's capital, she rushed to the front-line battlefield specified in the information at any cost and against time. However, after arriving at the camp, they learned that they had recently gone to the center of the battlefield in order to prevent the magic machinery dropped by the Bis Empire. After Liu Yin showed his identity documents, he had to go through many procedures before he could authorize the use of military vehicles and airships. So she couldn't help but snatch the nearest military motorcycle from the camp. But Liu Yin never caught up. When the burned-out locomotive engine came to the front-line battlefield, everything ceased to exist. In the camp of the kingdom's army, after Ika received all the treatment that could be done under the existing conditions, he was moved from the medical camp to the shed previously built for them. I'm really sorry. They are the benefactors of our country. If this is a peaceful era, they should enjoy the highest level of treatment. However, due to the situation, I can only live here temporarily. Please forgive me. In addition, we will do everything we can to provide convenience for you, which is the minimum compensation. Judging from the current situation, this solitary shack is already the best treatment in the border camp. The medical battalion of the Kingdom Army also has to admit other wounded people, so Ika cannot stay there for close monitoring after treatment. Before leaving the shack, the chief specifically asked Liuyan, who was guarding him, to notify the people nearby immediately if there was an emergency, and they would provide help unconditionally. It is said that Ika is indeed very lucky. He has experienced 2 fierce battles that affected the center of the battlefield, and then was stabbed through the abdomen by a knife, but his life was not threatened. It's just that no one can predict the extent of recovery. The worst case scenario is that Ika will not be able to get out of bed freely for a period of time. This is the judgment of the kingdom's potion magician. Although I think his purpose of coming here has not been achieved, but now, I must inform the royal capital to send someone to take you back. It is impossible to rest here. Although I have asked him to lend a helping hand as much as possible, it seems that I am too rash. Someone who can fundamentally solve the war should not die in such a place. The officer's parting words expressed deep regret. It is very rare to get such regrets. People are passing away every moment on the battlefield, and there is no time to regret them one by one. In the hearts of the officers, who were neither relatives nor friends, they only had respect and sentimentality for Ika and the others. But to Liuyan's ears, such words seemed too cheap and meaningless. Before Liuyan arrived here, she had not carefully understood why Ika came here with Way 11, and now she had no intention of questioning the superior. Because she no longer wanted to know, it didn't matter whether she knew or not. It's probably not Ika's fault, he has a goal that he must achieve, and Way 11 will accompany him to dangerous places only when she understands the causes and consequences and sincerely supports him. Liuyan looked at the ice coffin standing alone in a corner of the shed. The shelter made of ice that would never melt protected Way 11 forever. After the chief left the shed, Liuyan, who had been holding on for so long, finally lost strength in his legs and collapsed on the ground. Woo! The tears that he thought had turned into ice and could never be shed again dyed the red dust under Liuyan's body like blood. The engine roared outside the shed, and any movement in the shed would be obscured by the noise outside. Finally, a wail that no one could hear burst out of her throat. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 428. The hazy Augusta still carries an air that cannot be linked to the cruel war in the slightest. Today is a special day. Princes and nobles who have no worries about food and clothing have gathered in the center of the Bis Empire one after another. Such a grand occasion also attracted numerous domestic media to focus their lenses here. The Bizi Empire is holding an annual investiture ceremony to crown the new blood flowing into the empire with medals. The venue for the investiture ceremony was in August City, and today's venue was packed with people. The younger generation who received the award were at the top of the list, and the Senate personally wore medals symbolizing their new status on them. Bathed in flashlight, this will be the most glorious moment of their generation. The eldest son of Luo 11, Brad Luo 11 officially inherited the long-standing Fu family. Before the handover ceremony within the family, the newly promoted Chick took over some of the responsibilities of the head of the Roxy family, Crows Roi, and was responsible for managing the military enterprise officially set up by the Bizi Empire in the northwest district of the imperial capital. Although this is only one of the most basic functions in the military enterprise family, everyone knows that this insignificant name is just the Luo 11 family following traditional procedures. As early as a long time ago, Lugo 11's family was ready to hand over the parents. Although Brad Rossi is still young, he has received elite education from his family since he was a child and has experienced the training of independent thinking at Shimoyu Academy. He is already qualified to be the heir of the Fu family. In other words, he has essentially mastered most of the power of this ancient family. The top level of national magicians has also joined the ranks of the youngest commander ever. Lilith, a prospective graduate of Shiyu Academy, was officially awarded the title of National Magician of the Bis Empire. The National Magician army she led was under the control of the Roxy family. With the double proof of ability and background, Lilith has reached a height that was difficult to climb at her young age. Naturally, she took advantage of the preferential treatment the Senate had given her. But this time, Lilith took the initiative to take advantage of this opportunity after thinking about it. A few weeks ago, when Lilith and Ms. Elise returned to the Imperial Palace to discuss. "I want to be a state magician." When Lilith told Ms. Elise this idea, all she got was silence from the head of the family. "Lilith, are you sure you want to give up inheriting the family?" Although Lilith's family is not as prestigious as the Fu family, it is still one of the ancient families that represented human beings in cross-border wars before the establishment of the Bis Empire. After the cross-border war, the engineering and construction industry developed by her family has become the main force in the reconstruction of the empire, and has even begun cutting-edge research that integrates engineering and magic mechanics. For an ancient family with such a traditional foundation, if the head of the family abandons the foundation of the family, it is equivalent to changing the direction of the family's progress and abruptly turning to another positional path with no savings. Even if Ms. Elise can agree to Lilith's willful request for the sake of mother and daughter, the big shots above will not allow the centuries-old inheritance to be wasted in this generation. There was no need for Ms. Elise to remind her of the dangers of this approach. Of course, Lilith had already been troubled by this problem. "I can't give up the family business. It's not don't want to, but can't." Lilith thought about many aspects. She didn't need to waste a long time, she just needed to list the things she needed most now. "If I didn't have my family background, even if I became a national magician, I would only be an unknown person based on my ability." Lilith is not shy about using relationships, and she must step into a circle where love and courage alone cannot help her stand out. Her goal is only results, and there needs to be a process before getting results. If this process cannot proceed smoothly, the results will naturally become empty words. When you graduated from the 2nd grade, the boy from the Kin's family made it very clear that you have the freedom to pursue your dreams, so I will not continue to interfere with your decision. However, Ms. Elise, Lilith must be warned in advance, whether it is due to the obligations of mother or head of the family, you can't have your cake and eat it too. This approach will inevitably pay a price, and what the price is not something I can decide alone. So, now I will give you time to think. You may not necessarily give me an answer now. The implication of Ms. Elise's words was already very obvious. If Lilith insists on taking the path of a national magician, she will inevitably encounter various obstacles to varying degrees in inheriting the family. Kin collateral brothers and sisters also inherit the family. If those people above insist, the collateral line can also replace the direct line. In other words, as long as it can support the development of the family, the purity of the bloodline does not seem to be that important. The people above were not sticklers for bloodline belief, which really gave Lilith hope in this game. What if my decision can bring another fortune to the family, or a priceless treasure? What does it mean? I want to use this opportunity to form an alliance with the Lugo 11 family. Alliance in the political circle is not a simple sentence or a contract that can form an established fact. Although there are many ways to promote its formation, such as the use of common interests between the two parties, or the establishment of a marriage relationship between families, etc. The former is naturally not considered. Ordinary nobles based in the cultural industry and the Lugo 11 family, a family named Fu who controls the country's lifeblood, the secret military industry, have no connection points since ancient times, and it is impossible to form an alliance with the same interests. If it's the latter, maybe it's still possible. I believe that you are so resistant to the marriage of the Dell family, but now you start to consider the Roxy family. Are you not comparing the strength of the two families, MRS in aside? If this is the case, even in their current situation, the Dell family is much stronger than the Roxy family. The powerful that Ms. Elise mentioned here only refers to the distribution of the power of the two families in the political circle. The Dell family owns the Empire's eyes and ears, the Imperial Intelligence Agency. It is currently paralyzed due to an unknown attack, but it can be restored to its functions in a short time. Dell's eldest son, Sanders Dell, is the leader of the Imperial Knights. In addition to the core military power controlled by the Minister of Military Affairs, 2/3 of the remaining power is in the hands of the Dell family, and the other 1/3 belongs to the Roxy family. It's not for the power of the Luo 11 family. I have already considered these issues. Lilith did not say it clearly. What she said was already a chess piece to take a step forward. Although the power of the Luo 11 family is not as good as the Dell family, but now they are the two most powerful families except the royal family Ela, just like the Bis Twin Towers in the past. If my approach can achieve an alliance with one of them, those people above shouldn't say anything more, right? In fact, the two quasi-successors of the family, Lilith for Ica, and Brad Rossi for Lolo, have already reached a private partnership. Unlike Lilith, Brad Roche's words now have a decisive weight in the Roche family, and Lilith still needs to discuss with the current head of the family, Ms. Elise, how to deal with the family elders above. If it is really possible to form an alliance with the Roxy family, those people above may really accept such a result. Ms. Ines did not say that she had accepted it, but she did not delve into the plan. Lilith said. What exactly is it? It's just, Lilith, I hope you can think about it before making a decision. Is it really worth doing this? When she heard this meaningful advice, Lilith, who was full of confidence, couldn't help but become speechless. She looked at the diamond ring she was wearing on her ring finger. Since the incident with Lan Mingyila came to an end temporarily and Roosevelt Dell was under investigation due to the accident, Lilith was able to relax and resume wearing the amulet-like magical equipment in its original position. I don't know either. After falling silent, anyone in Lilith's voice could hear that she was a little disappointed. Ms. Elise also followed her gaze and looked at the diamond ring. She knew the origin of the diamond ring and the meaning of Lilith's insistence on wearing it on that finger, so she should have guessed the entanglement in Lilith's heart at the moment. Maybe even if I try so hard, I might not get what I want. With this unwillingness to express his feelings, there was a trace of bitterness that could not be melted away, but this is what I want to do for him. I don't want to use it as an excuse for not taking the opportunity to work hard, and if that's not enough, maybe it really is. Lilith used the words that person taught her to strengthen her beliefs. Just like her perseverance at that time, Lilith is now standing on the highest stage that she has tried her best to reach. Although it is wartime now, they will not be sent to the frontline battlefield as they have just entered new roles. There is still much to learn within their own fields. The Roxy family and Lilith's family reached an alliance under mutually agreed conditions. The former successfully accepted the olive branch offered by the latter under the advice of Brad Roche. The more important reason is that the magician army commanded by Lilith is the elite force of the Roxy family, and the two families have been tacitly regarded as an alliance in public. No matter how long our relationship lasts, now we just have to think about the same thing. Brad Roche said this when he met Lilith privately after that. With the efforts of the two of them, they broke through many obstacles and obtained the location where Lan Mingyila, the core figure of the war, was imprisoned. Then Ica, who acted as a fugitive, and the others successfully escaped from the border fortress of Lieutenant General Rosenberg to the princess. His Highness snatched it back. Neither of them knew what Ica and the others had done after that. The only thing they knew was that he would never give up. Presumably at this moment they should be looking for a chance to make a comeback somewhere outside the borders of the BZ Empire. The Luo 11 family now controls vital military enterprises, including the supply of weapons to various military ministries. With the Luo 11 family's relationship network, they can at least get information about Luo as soon as possible, and all available forces will be used to protect her when necessary. From this, Lilith gained power far beyond one person and a network of connections with the Roxy family. She must make good use of this relationship to deal with the situation where Ica and the others may return to the BZ Empire at any time. Neither of them has achieved their stranded wish, but they still strive for it. There is no particular reason, just because I want to do it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 429. Ica was seriously injured on the battlefield, and the news that the royal capital needed to arrange a special plane to take him back was conveyed back to the ears of Ling and Lanming, who were left behind through the front-line battlefield line. Why does it end up like this every time? Ling, who seemed to have spent a long time suppressing his excitement, muttered this sentence for a long time. Although this was not his original wish, he seemed to have some resistance to this ending. What an annoying resistance. Before he set off, he thought that it would probably turn out like this. When they learned the news, relevant personnel from the three parties, including Oleafer, were having intense meetings. And this news blew away the atmosphere brewing in the meeting in an instant, and no one was interested in continuing. We will now arrange for the aviation magic ship to go there to pick them up. The king can guarantee that all resources will be used to help him recover. This time they caused such consequences because they took the initiative to lend a helping hand to us. In other words, this is our responsibility. The king obviously does not want Ica's accident to become a stumbling block to the tripartite talks. This war was originally triggered by the deviation in the sharing of responsibilities. Now the Lanming Yila faction, who raised the flag of rebellion against the BZ Empire, is their last hope. If the old drama repeats itself at this critical moment, the Tiburai kingdom will be unable to withstand a double blow. Then the guard who had brought the information leaned down and spoke something in the king's ear. Since it is information that Lanming and the others cannot know without permission, it is either confidential information within the Tiburai kingdom, or it is an incident that requires the king to decide whether it can be made public. The king, who was already frowning, frowned as he listened to the news conveyed by the guards. Before the guards left, Ling and Lanming never took their eyes off the king. They don't need to abide by the rule of you don't need to know things you shouldn't know. The current intelligence is likely to be related to the frontline battlefield, and they are eager to know all the intelligence related to Ica and the others. After all, paper cannot cover the fire. The king thought for a moment and decided not to hide that thing from them. The traces of Hitomi have not been found, and the kingdom's army will continue to search for her traces with all their strength. What followed was the fact that someone left again. The moment Lanming understood the meaning of that sentence, he couldn't help but cover his mouth that almost screamed out. Why would Xiao 11? Ling, who was hit one after another, reacted just as well as Lanming. She was the only one in the audience who couldn't help but stand up from her seat. Although she thought that everyone might come back in a mess, she never thought that she might lose someone forever on this trip. For Lanming, who called everyone together to start this battle to clear her name, this was undoubtedly a heavy blow, enough to prevent her from moving forward confidently. This is not the case for Ling, who is accompanying her as a family member, or even above that. Ling, who suddenly stood up, naturally attracted the attention of the venue. Realizing this, Ling still had to consider the overall situation, at least for now. During these few seconds of cooling down her feelings, Ling suddenly thought of a certain condition that Lanming had not connected with. Light. Did you hear that? Will it really become like this? Wei 11 is a magic costume. While sitting back in his seat, Ling immediately asked Guan Yanjian, who was also wearing a magic suit. As expected, Guan Jun's sword, who had returned to the spiritual world, was also awake now, and Ling immediately received her unhurried rhetorical question. Since the master can still be so calm now, why not think again about whether the concept of life exists for us as magic costumes? It's a pity that Liu Yin didn't catch up. Oliver just sighed lightly about this, but it still seemed awkward in the silent venue. Losing a companion on the battlefield may be a very common thing for the Holy See Knights, so her tone did not contain much sadness. But Wei 11 was once her colleague, wouldn't she be touched at all by this? Ling couldn't feel the emotion at all from her tone, as if she had just heard something that had nothing to do with her. Ling had not known Oliver for a long time, so he was not prepared to question her for being unmoved. Can we arrange to go to the front-line battlefield now? Lan Ming also stood up from her seat. She probably had the same idea as Ling, hoping to see Ika and the others as soon as possible. However, that's not allowed. Lan Ming asked a question to the kingdom, but Oliver was the one who answered. After the two of them, Oliver stepped forward as the third person, which naturally caused everyone's attention to focus on her. If Liu Yin comes back here at this time, it will become troublesome. Oliver still had that unhurried tone, and the softness in his blue eyes was not affected by the depressing atmosphere of the venue. She slowly took off the ornament hanging on the hilt of the rapier at her waist. No one knew what she wanted to do, so no one stopped her. That is, the light flame sword noticed the identity of the ornament in time, and she sent a warning in Ling's mind without hesitation. At the same time, Olive released her fingertips, and the ornament fell from her fingers, rolling silently onto the pure red carpet of the venue. Ling took a moment to understand the warning signal from the light flame sword. It wasn't until the ornament left Oliver's finger that she noticed the strange magic fluctuations emanating from her body. Ding! The delicate rapier that Orefhel drew out collided with the red gold blade of the light flame sword, making a crisp sound that resounded throughout the venue. That ornament felt like it had already been touched in the territory of the gods. No matter who Olefali was, Ling realized that she had to stop what she was doing now. While the first attempt failed to stop Oliver, the ornament lying quietly on the pure red carpet unfolded an irregular three-dimensional magic circle. Orfeel, what exactly do you want to do? Before Oliver didn't answer, Ling didn't want to hurt her without figuring anything out. At best, he just wanted to take away her consciousness to remove the connection between her and the ornament. Mimicry magic equipment will lose its effect as long as it loses the object that supplies magic power. This is the experience gained when searching for a smuggling group in the Protoss territory. But the seemingly fragile rapier did not break. The silver-white sword leaves sharp sword marks in the air, intersecting with the golden tracks. It even looks for opportunities to counter-attack in the gaps between the tracks. If Ling is careless, he will be thrown off the track and become the target of attack. Of course, it's to prevent you from bringing Liu Yin back from the front-line battlefield. I spent a lot of energy to drag her there. Oliafil, who gracefully danced his silver rapier, kept smiling. It said something that was obviously not hostile, but made the listener shudder. Liu Yin is much stronger than me. In order to prevent her from following me here, I told her Xioxi's location, but at that time she had already. We can't save Xiao 11. Oliver's rapier skills are indeed as good as Ling's sword skills, as Wei 11 said before, and this is not an exaggeration. It seems that I was right from the beginning. When Ling's blade was bounced back, he used the back of the blade to deflect the sharp sword stab that was trying to find a chance. I just didn't expect that the people sent by the Holy See would really have problems. Just a few seconds after the two were fighting, the door of the venue was suddenly kicked open. Several kingdom soldiers on standby outside the venue heard the news and rushed in. However, Ling and Oliver were already involved in a melee. Their figures were constantly intertwined, and the kingdom's soldiers were unable to attack Oliver. Ling, get out of there. Lan Ming's voice sounded behind Ling, and without much thought, Ling lowered her body and dodged away from Oliver's pursuit. The kingdom soldiers behind her finally found this moment and pulled the triggers of their guns. The gun's body rang out everywhere, but the metal bullet was absorbed by some strange emerald green when it was shot out of the muzzle, and disappeared quietly into thin air. The radiance of the three-dimensional magic circle unfolded by that ornament interfered with human vision. If you are outside the magic circle, you can notice that the entire venue is actually dyed emerald green. The same emerald green magic power floated on the ground under Oliaphiel's feet, and the bright color that originally symbolized life really started to move slightly as if it was given life. I took over the mission of the Holy See and came here just to find the meaning of my existence here, so don't get me wrong, this matter has nothing to do with the Holy See, it's just my willfulness. As she spoke, she raised her hand. Lan Ming. I know. The rising Ela family coat of arms covered the entire place with emerald green magic light with golden brilliance. Resonance destruction. In the face of the mimicry magic equipment, Lan Ming's royal magic equipment, Candle Dragon Molten Gold is the time to maximize its capabilities. However, the construction center of the three-dimensional magic array did not shatter under the power of the Candle Dragon's molten gold. That is. At this time, Lan Ming was not dumb because resonance and harmony had no effect, but he saw an even more shocking scene outside the venue through it. The reaction was a little slower. In an instant, countless thorns that had not been interfered by the Candle Dragon's molten gold flew out from the walls in all directions, targeting the kingdom soldiers at the gate of the venue. The thorns that look soft but are actually flexible turn into sharp spears that pierce the human body from different directions, squeezing out every drop of blood from the victim like the torture of an impaler. Everyone else witnessed this tragic scene and forgot their original responsibilities at this time. Some people put down their guns and stepped back step by step, while others raised their guns and fired at the thorns surrounding them. However, these are of no avail. The thorns passed through the hail of bullets like poisonous snakes and entangled the kingdom soldiers who were completely in disarray. The thorns constructed with magical power tore every inch of their muscles. The soldiers who were tightly bound by the emerald green thorns completely lost their will to fight and let out unbearable screams, but there was no point in doing so. The bones were broken under the flexible thorns, and the bodies of the innocent soldiers were immediately torn apart, with blood and internal organs flying everywhere. Naturally, those thorns did not let go of Ling and Lan Ming, who were now the greatest threat, but at this moment Lan Ming stood there as if he was completely unaware. At the critical moment, Ling knocked her away. She relied entirely on body reflexes to knock Lan Ming away while slashing at the emerald green magical creature with the light flame sword. It turns out that those seemingly soft thorns are actually not as tough as Orifiel's rapier, and they were shattered under the red gold slashing trajectory. Why don't you move? It's not just here. Lan Ming, who was knocked away by Ling and fell to the ground, came to his senses and murmured to himself. Of course Ling didn't know what kind of hell scene Lan Ming saw under the resonance and synchrony vision. The king and other ministers have been protected by the nearest soldiers. I don't know if Oliver is not interested in them, or they did not attack those thorns. Now it seems that they have escaped from the death scythe. When those soldiers saw the miserable experience of their companions, no one could stand upright and face death, for fear that such an outcome would eventually befall them. But after all, they are soldiers of the kingdom who have sworn to sacrifice themselves for the country at any time, and there is no one who is greedy for life and afraid of death. And the girl who created such a bloody composition, the Blue Knight Orefhel, still retains the gentle kindness in her blue eyes. The scattered flesh and blood did not seem to catch her eyes. In front of her, perhaps there was only something she was looking for and pursuing. Then I'll take my leave first. Behind Oliaphiel, flying thorns smashed the wall of the venue, and the windy street scene outside could be seen from the venue. That was the hell scene that Lan Ming saw under the vision of resonance and harmony, and now it was nakedly displayed in front of everyone's eyes. Then, Orefhel turned around and walked to the edge of the ruined wall, and jumped down without any hesitation. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 430. Through the wall of the venue destroyed by Orefhel, one could see a corner of the city that was completely different from what he remembered. Everywhere you see is green. Different from the blood-sucking thorns in the venue, countless plant vines that were difficult for several people to hug broke out from the ground of the street. It was as if emerald green magic erupted from the ground in an instant, swallowing up the streets in the blink of an eye. Buildings have become the best places for those plants and vines to attach themselves to, like giant pythons that have caught their prey entrenched among the urban buildings. Many buildings were even overwhelmed and cut off at the waist in the process, and collapsed to the ground. Everything in the royal capital was covered in such emerald green, and new blood-sucking thorns sprouted from the branches of the giant vines, extending around like some kind of demonic tentacles. The entire king has turned into a sea of emerald green forest. The blood-sucking thorns that spread out everywhere became food for the people of the royal capital, and the howling wind brought the wails and whistles from the streets into this small venue. It's not just here. Lan Ming spoke in a trembling voice about the panoramic view of the royal capital she saw with the help of the candle dragon melting gold. This royal capital is already full of that kind of magic. After Orefhel left the venue, the blood-sucking thorns that killed the kingdom's soldiers also disappeared, and the king stepped forward behind layers of protection. Is this an arrangement from the Holy See? The current situation is on the verge of breaking out. Wei 11 lost her life on the front-line battlefield of the Tiburai kingdom. Wave after wave of unrest occurred. The Knight in Blue sent by the Holy See to assist Lan Ming in communicating with the Tiburai kingdom plunged the kingdom into such a crisis. The venue was filled with the smell of blood of fallen soldiers. You don't have to see that scene with your own eyes, just breathing in the air is enough to make you sick. Ling resisted the urge to avoid the human limbs scattered on the ground and looked at the king, who seemed to be suppressing his anger. The kingdom soldiers behind him also diverted their indignation at losing their comrades away from Oleafer, who left the venue, and instead focused on Lan Ming and his group, who introduced her into the territory. What should be the answer? Ling didn't know Oleafel's purpose at all, and since she was from the Holy See, it would be all over as long as he cut off the relationship with her. This should not be the arrangement of the Holy See. Lan Ming answered the king on behalf of Ling, who had never dealt with this kind of problem. Although her shoulders held by Ling were still shaking slightly from the shock, in order to prevent diplomacy from collapsing, she had to clarify the facts clearly. Orefhel is using a mimicry magic outfit, which is something that both the Holy See and us want to investigate. The purpose of the Holy See sending the Blue Knights to assist Lan Ming and the others this time was to investigate the mimicry magic equipment that had flowed into the front-line battlefield of the Kingdom of Tiburai. If this time it was just a Trojan horse operation, and the Holy See brought the mimicry magic equipment into the capital to use it in order for Oleafer, although it is not impossible, the reasons to support it are not sufficient. Moreover, Oleafer herself had just said that this was her own decision and had nothing to do with the Holy See. If the Holy See really has that intention, then it doesn't make much sense for her to take the initiative to distance herself from the Holy See. The king was not a confused person. After hearing Lan Ming's explanation, he roughly understood the whole story of the incident. Then, our first priority now is to prevent that person from continuing to act recklessly in the royal capital. The schedule to pick up Sir Ika and others remains unchanged and will be implemented immediately. The king was the quickest to regain his senses among the group of people, and he was worthy of being the king of a country. Inspired by his momentum, the soldiers of the kingdom straightened their weak legs and arranged the matters ordered by the king one by one. Seeing that the most tense situation had been calmed down by Lan Ming, Ling felt relieved. She supported Lan Ming's shoulders and stood up again from falling to the ground. It would be bad if I catch up now and let her run away. The light flame sword will definitely follow me. Is it okay for you to stay here alone? Originally, Ika asked Ling to stay in the capital to protect Lan Ming, who was not good at fighting. Once Ling left, Lan Ming had no relatives or friends he could fully trust. So Ling Ke was in a dilemma. She couldn't rest assured leaving Lan Ming alone here. At least until just now, the relationship between the Tiberai kingdom and a few of them was on a shaky one-plank bridge. If something really happens, I will ask Zilong Molten Gold to tell the light flame sword. Lan Ming smiled and took 2 or 3 steps away from Ling. Besides, don't underestimate me. In fact, I have already taken it he has reached the qualification of a national magician. Of course, Ling didn't know if this was a joke made by Lan Ming to reassure her. At least she had never seen Her Royal Highness fight like a national magician on the battlefield. Naturally, as a princess, Her Highness would not go there in person. Battlefield. However, regardless of whether Lan Ming's words were comforting or not, Ling had to accept her strength and determination. I understand. If anything happens, please inform me and the light flame sword immediately. Ling, please note that Oleafer's mimicry magic outfit does not have a fixed core. To describe it, the entire royal capital is now part of her mimicry magic outfit. Use the Candle Dragon's ability to melt gold to destroy this. It may not be possible to create mimicry magic equipment of this scale. But if it is just an ordinary mimicry magic equipment, I should be able to destroy it directly from the inside, so I will always support you from behind. You only need to concentrate on stopping Oleafer. I understand. Ling summoned the light flame sword again. If you pick up Ika and the others, tell me first. Don't worry about explaining anything more. The venue has now become an emergency command office, where the highest level officials, including the king, are gathered. It's just that the holes in the wall that haven't been filled in are a bit unpleasant, but you can intuitively see the real-time situation outside the palace. Ling could only temporarily forget about Ika and the others, including the previous confusion about Wei 11's life and death. It would not be too late to consider those things after they came back. Because the established facts will not change no matter what. Ling chose the shortest way. After putting down Lan Ming, she jumped out from the broken wall destroyed by Oleafer without hesitation. The sea of vines that was raging all over the capital at this moment destroyed the dedicated airport for the air magic ship to take off and land. The air magic ship that was originally scheduled to set off from the capital to pick up Ika and others was now trapped in the paralyzed inside the airport. The intelligence fed back from the royal capital to the frontline battlefield camps also brought news of the rebellion of the Holy Sea's envoys. Orfeel. Liuyan learned the bad news from the royal capital from the correspondent. She never thought that it would be like this after she left. This is definitely not some secret mission arranged by the Holy See for Oleafer. Liuyan is very sure of this. She couldn't figure out why Orfeel would choose to betray the Holy See. From Liuyan's understanding of Oleafer, she was not the kind of woman who planned things very carefully. On the contrary, Oleafer is a very innocent girl, and among the Blue Knights of the Vatican, she is also a very emotional person. Oleafer was already a Blue Knight before Liuyan and Wei 11 came to the Holy See. So when asked if he really knows Oleafer, Liuyan will frankly admit that he doesn't even know what she has experienced in the past. Because she never talked about her past in front of everyone. Since the mimicry magic equipment was used, Orfeel might have switched sides to the Nemesis Society. Before they set off from the Holy See, Pope Sethys had already considered that the mimicry magic costume was actually made by the Nemesis Society, although Ika and the others learned that Mishi and Komaka stated that they had nothing to do with the Nemesis Society. But now that their names appear, they cannot be ignored. While Liuyan was communicating with the correspondent, the commander also came to the shed. Liuyan decided to seek help directly from his superior. Is there any other way to send us back to the capital? Can the airship here be used? Ika's injury recovered quickly, and if you take it easy, it might be fine if you just leave it alone. After the treatment was done, I still had a slight fever, but now it has subsided. The airships here can be used. But it is said that the royal capital has been completely blocked now. Even if we can enter the royal capital, there is no airport for us to land. If we want to land, we can only choose the city closest to the royal capital, and we are not sure where it is. When will it be affected by the magic in the royal capital? Then send me back alone first. As an envoy sent by the Holy See, Liu Yin must go back immediately to give an explanation to the highest level of the kingdom. If it was really Oliver who betrayed the Holy See and caused such a big commotion, then it would be his own responsibility to purge her on behalf of the Holy See. The place where there is no landing is not a problem at all for Liu Yin. As long as you can reach your destination, just jump off. I understand how you feel now. Suddenly, there seemed to be an explosion not far from the camp. The shaking of the ground gradually became obvious, as if coming from underground, and the loose structure of the shed began to groan. Before Liu Yin could understand the situation, more violent earthquakes and explosions immediately erupted at a closer distance. It seemed that the two armies suddenly started fighting at a very close distance. Report: our magician troops have turned against each other en masse. What happened? Listening to the message from the communicator hanging on his chest that notified the entire battalion, the commander's expression instantly became terrifying. He didn't bother to explain to Liu Yin and walked quickly outside the shed. Liu Yin looked back at Ika, who was sleeping on the bed, and then looked at the ice coffin standing alone in the corner of the shed. "I'll be back soon." She whispered something and immediately turned around and ran out of the narrow shed after the departing officer.